I'm Luis Ferrini, and there is my colleague Susanna Albertini and Selena Marinelli that is also with us. So we will be the webinar facilitators. There will be some presentation by Susanna, and then we'll come up with some case studies, and then we would like to have you on doing something, okay? So I pass the ball to Susanna, and the floor is yours, Susanna.
Okay, so I would like, thanks for being here, and I think that we are increasing a little bit, and we will have fun in any case, and we will discover many things as we also learned and discovered while preparing this presentation. So we want to start from one, let's say, good ambassador of science and of change in general. And you know that this guy learned to write around 9 years, and he started to speak at 6. So before, apparently, he was just using his visual thinking or visual imagination. So we thought he was a very good example and testimonial. And one of his sentence was exactly this: I don't really understand something unless I can explain it to my grandmother. And then if I can picture, I can understand it. So this is a start of this adventure. And basically what we want to try to convey and to discuss with you is that when we plan and deliver our thoughts, but also feeling, concepts or ideas, often we face 3 challenges mainly. The first one is to structure our ideas in a way that we, as the first, let's say, people in contact with this concept understand, but also someone else, like for instance our team that we can work with and co-create something, or when we have to go outside and so to attract and communicate with someone else externally, we need to really carefully put in place a number of visual thinking activities. Basically, this is how the brain works. The brain works mainly in a very, let's say, simplistic way in has 3 dimensions of collecting information through what we hear, so words, sound, melody, through our interaction with the environment, physical interaction. And in this, let's say, macro world, we also have, for instance, the experiential learning, but also even when we touch, when we also taste something, we good something. But also, and this is the place where we want to go deepen, is the visual spatial access, or that is through our eyes, but also through our minds. As you know, the brain is basically divided into hemispheres, and one is more related to, let's say, the writing, logic, critical thinking, but also reasoning and number. And this is the left side. So the people that are dominant in this are typically very strong in this dimension, while there is the right brain dominance that is typical to the people that are very creative and also artists. They create music, appreciate art, and are also innovative. Of course, there's not a segmentation, a strict segmentation, but all of us, we use some parts of our brain for some tasks and some other for other tasks. And in what we would like to do with this exercise is to really try to make better bridges between the 2 sides, and so really become more, let's say, performant in the right side of our brain. As you see here, this is a neurological activation of areas depending on the type of information that we are getting, if it is visual, the first line, and if it is verbal. As you can see, the visual activates much more neurons. But if you imagine to have the both activation contemporarily, like for instance, now you are hearing my voice and you are looking to the presentation, this will have basically two main outcomes. The first outcomes is that we will activate much more parts of our brains, and this has these two consequences. The first one is that you will learn more, you will comprehend more. And the second is that you will retain more, so you will remember much more compared to the simple voice. As you know, from the very, very beginning, I mean, it's just a few years in terms of evolution that we are using words. Before, we were just using images or symbols. The first alphabet was using images, and therefore our brain, and particularly the let's say older parts of our brain, are still thinking by images. So what is the visual thinking? Visual thinking was structured and defined with this name in 1969 by this guy that is a German psychologist, but also expert in art. And he was, let's say, balancing the two dimensions, psychology and art, because he believes that art is the most natural way of understanding the world. Of course, this theory had a lot of evolutions, and now there are several, of course, ideas on the ground, and we tried to put some of them in the same place, in the same presentation. First of all, some statistical data. 60 to 65 of the general population use visual thinking. Less than 30% strongly use visual thinking. So typically the artists or the people that are, for instance, even the storytellers, those people that are using it a lot. In part because they are born in this way, in part because they are getting used and they are using these techniques. 45% is using both way of thinking, and 25% apparently uses exclusively words. Visual thinking is a mental process, basically, that uses visual processing capabilities of our mind. So I would like from you if you believe that you are a visual thinker or not. Anyone would like to answer? Are you? Luis, you cannot answer because you are a graphic designer, so. Serena, yes, this, I think this is yes, I am. Someone
Yes,
that is not? Alina also? Who wants to speak?
Probably not.
You
are not. Okay, maybe I will make you change your mind.
Yeah,
Let's see.
Mirko, because you come from what background? I mean, it's more like programming or something like that?
It's economy and programming.
Sorry?
It's economy and programming. So so in that sense, I'm an economist that that is involved in software development. So I would think that I work in numbers and logic and have a, I would say, analytical mind. Yeah.
So you will find out that actually you are a visual thinker. You will see in the presentation.
Okay.
Okay, so let's keep on our story. So, and indeed, several people think that this is a typical talent of graphic designers, artists, painters, or musicians. But now we would like to destroy this stereotype in the next slides. So let's start from, let's analyze some dimension of visual thinking. For instance, visual perception. So what do you see in the picture? You simply see two hands, or you see a heart, you see you have emotional feelings like a romantic moment. If you interpret this picture in this way, like I guess, you have at least one dimension of visual thinking, because this is really the ability of our brain to receive, interpret, and act upon visual stimuli. The second dimension is the situational awareness. And this is basically what helped us in the past to survive. So the ability to take a picture of the environment, understand what are the environmental elements and events with respect of time and space, comprehend, and then act accordingly. In the picture you see, I don't know if you have, I have the pictures of the people on top, but in this picture there is a big wave that is nearly killing this guy. So of course we have an alert message. Or another example is when you are about to enter in your bank and you see someone with a gun in his hand, of course you will not enter the bank and probably you will run calling the police. Another dimension is the visual memory. I mean, the possibility to recall memories from the past in form of images or in form of even situations, scenes, videos of the memory. There are people that are able even to read a book simply using the visual memory. And also consider that the people that are those Guinness World Records that are remembering large number of items of words, they use visualization. So they create images in which there are different elements, but visual, to recall numbers or words. Recognition, okay. What is this? The first one?
Superman.
Okay, so I guess maybe in any case, this is, of course, you know that is Batman. You all know that, oops, that this is not a fruit shop. You all know that this is not an association protecting birds. And then you have also symbols that are already part of our daily interfaces. Even here, when I have to activate and deactivate my audio, I'm using this icon. And then everybody knows that this is the Wi-Fi. So all the icons are visual way of interpreting the reality, and they can be let's say natural or artificial. For instance, those ones have been created in the last few years. And then another dimension of the visual thinking is the visualization. For instance, when someone tells you a story, your brain cannot prevent to start creating images. Or when you are reading, and this is something that we learn when we are very, very young, and is a way of visualize something that doesn't exist apart in our mind. This is why I was saying that could be real or mental images. And the same applies to dreams. Dreams are highly visual, full of colors, shapes, movements. Nobody dreams in words. And also the visual learning is very, very connected with the visual communication, because of course the communicators are using the visual learning and visual thinking to communicate. So here you can see the poison writing, but if we didn't have the poison writing, we could also know that this is something that we don't have to drink. Basically, and the use of visual thinking can be used to communicate, convey, or convince.
Susanna,
yes?
Can you allow me to tell a quick joke just to make it more interactive? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, excuse me. Okay.
If I can share a little story.
Yes, sure.
The
Absolutely.
So it's actually a joke, and a Polish guy got married to an American woman, and he moved there, and then just a week after the marriage, he asked for a divorce. And when he talked to the lawyer and said, well, I need to divorce because my wife wants to kill me. And how do you know that she wants to kill you? And then the Polish guy said, well, I found a bottle of poison in the bathroom that wrote Polish remover. So he misunderstood the bottle's visual for something else.
It's funny.
Susanna, you are muted.
Some of you already know us, and you know that we really like to have this type of sharing and this type of intervention. So if you want to say something, I cannot see you, but Luis, maybe you can follow the fingers and tell me if someone would like to intervene, or otherwise you intervene. We are not a lot, so we can do it. Another dimension of the visual thinking is the spatial memory. And this means the ability to remember information about space without verbal information. So for instance, when you walk from your home to the office, you don't have to have indication. You remember, and your body is able to go in one direction or in another. And then I don't know if you know who is this artist. Someone recognize him?
Banksy.
Yes, exactly. And I just visit his exhibition that is all around Italy. And he's an artist that is typically using metaphoric abstraction to communicate, but is also using the contradiction and the really misleading between an image and the consequence. Like, for instance, you see here that there is this little boy that is eating the snow, and is a very nice and happy and I mean image that bring us to our first years. But then if you turn the corner, because it's done in a corner, you see that the origin of the snow is not really snow, but is some rubbish that is burned. And the other image that is very famous is this guy that is launching a bomb. The physical attitude is the launching a bomb, but indeed is launching flowers. So you can also use this kind of mental and cognitive contradiction to make your message stronger when you are using visual communication. And the last dimension is simulation. So the ability, and this ability is very typical of the people that play chess, to imagine fictive scenarios in a very detailed and maybe also very long process to predict what will happen and to act as a consequence. So now I would like to ask again to Mirko if he still believes that he's not a visual thinker.
No, I am a visual thinker, if you put it that way.
I told you.
Yeah.
Well, we found very interesting while studying all these elements and preparing this presentation, because this is something really informative and interesting to learn, how visual thinking is part of our day and night also. But now what we want to do is to better exploit this for our work. And then, as we already imagine, we can use visual thinking to see. So to be able to really see the world in a different way, to explore, to comprehend, to share with the other, and also to explain new ideas and information. We also we can also use this technique to convey complex ideas in a more simple way, and then to make the things more clear, so to facilitate the understanding of complexity. Luis, do we want to see the chat if there is some messages? I see that.
There is a message from Ajevromic that is saying, I can't imagine how it is to be a visual thinker, with a smile. So
now I think you have some more information, but
yes.
Now let's see really how to use these techniques and this ability. So visual thinking can help us in transforming what is in the sky, what is intangible, in something that is in the ground. so it's tangible. And this can be done through an iterative process. So we take things, we bring them down, we refine, we bring them back and forth for several times. And we can do it alone, or we can do it, as we already have seen, alone with our team or with someone else. And there is we prepared a list of some examples of areas in which you can really use this technique to work better and to facilitate your activities. And we would like now to go into detail of some of them. So the first one is really simplify the complexity. So typically, in any project, in any idea, but also when you are studying or when you are analyzing something new, thoughts, feeling, concepts, ideas, words, you face a big complexity. And then you have to make a selection among this huge amount of data and to find what are the relevant information. A few years ago, we did a project working with intelligence analysts, and we discovered a lot of interesting information, including the role of cognitive biases, for instance, in the complexity, in understanding the complexity. And also we tried to work with them to understand how, because imagine they have a huge amount of data, and although most of the data are processed by the computers, some of them should be processed by the people. And they were very, I mean, they always pointed out the example on the fact that on the 11th of September, they already knew all the information, but they were not able to pick the right information among this big data. And then we can also, in this case, use visual metaphors to simplify and explain concept. Here, there is this example of big data. Big data can be structured when we want to try to visualize how they work in the way that is represented here in this sticky note. So starting from one to many and then to many again. Also, this applies, for instance, to the, I mean, to many structures. But if you turn upside down this image, you see that is a tree, basically. So all this information can fall down from a tree, and so you can use metaphoric visualization to really ease the complexity and simplify it. Another good way to use visual thinking is to structure the ideas, because you can put some dimension, and you will see them in the next presentation in a meaningful way. You can organize logically your ideas and projects, putting some dimensions like, for instance, what, how, to whom, when, some dimension. And you can also use other type of canvas, like, for instance, the SWOT canvas, that will help you to identify what are the strengths, weakness, opportunities, and trends. So
I'm sure, Susanna, that Mirko now it's recognizing it as a visual thinking when he sees this, correct? This part.
Yes, definitely I do, because in a sense, I'm using, I'm presenting ideas in a logical way, and yeah, I play saxophone as well. I suppose that I am a visual thinker. Yeah.
Good. So another way to use it is to plan and strategize. So when you want to define a plan, of course, you need to identify what are the most important information, of course, but then you have to define a priority, and then you have to take a decision. So for instance, visualize all these elements like the famous pros and cons list, in which in a certain point you realize that you have 1 pros and 20 cons, or vice versa, and then you visualize your decision. And of course, this helps you also in reducing the overwhelming, so the sensation of being overwhelmed by things to do, to make an example. And then, of course, learning is a process in which visual thinking can help you. The simple highlighting some pieces, some words when you are studying something, is a way of highlighting those words out of a big amount of words. And this is a way to visualize. Or, for instance, you know that images are processed in a very quick way compared to the text, like we said before. Now, so if you put an image, you can really create an emotion, or you can also help your audience to retain the information and also to consolidate the learning. And this is an interesting study about the fact that after 3 days, just 10% of the information that you received through text are retained, while 65% of the information are retained if they enter your brain through images. Visual thinking can also be used in teams, because when you want to improve your creative thinking skills and connect also the people with their creative side, you can use tools online, offline. You can use even artistic ways of putting together ideas and to facilitate discussion around ideas and innovation, but also discovering alternative thinking patterns. This is always interesting when we do co-creation, because we realize that the same concept can be really reached in different ways, and then of course inject new ideas in the process. When you go out, when you have to speak with someone else, of course you need to spark their imagination. You really need to bring them in your side, because you want to use the creative intelligence. Or you want, for instance, start developing a creative thinking process in your audience. Particularly, imagine when you're doing focus group and you want to collect information about your products, to make an example. And then you want to create emotional connection with your audience, because this will help you in doing what you want to do. If you want to convince, if they are investors, or if you are selling something.
Susanna, sorry, I
Yep.
interrupt you because there is James that is writing a thing, so I would like that you bring this up. He's saying that when he was going to school, he used to take text. James, can you explain this to us?
Yes, yeah, I always found that if I would just read the textbooks, I would only retain maybe 50% or whatever. And so I don't know if someone taught me this or I just learned it myself, but I found if I would read and then write it into my notebook,
Yep.
and I would, be able to, remember maybe 75% or something like that. And then, when I started working, I remember there was an engineer in the office where I was working first, and he had, he had textbooks there. It was an engineering job, and I noticed all of his textbooks had, with a regular pen, blue ink or black ink, he had all, many of the lines underlined, like it wasn't even, yellow highlight pens or anything. And I asked him, why did you do that to your books? So he explained to me, he said, well, if I read these textbooks and I just underline them with my pen, I can retain, 75, 80% of what I'm reading. So it was a little bit similar to what I had been doing, except I had been writing it, which takes a heck of a lot longer. He was literally like just going along with a pen as he was reading, and he claimed he was retaining it more. So perhaps this is another example that somehow, just the, going from the hand to the brain to the eyes, it's sort of making a bit more visual.
Well, of course, I think, James, the process of let's say, listening to, I don't know, a professor or reading something and underline, the important thing is more different than getting this information, process in your mind and put down as drawing. So this is a little more, complex, but can simplify at the end. So I think this was is not easy for sure. A lot of people because we were born writing, basically, you know. Also in the high school, they taught us basically to write down, to write. And while the visual part is not that was not that deep in the schools, I think. So that's why this process of getting, transforming, and put it down as, I don't know, you know, a sketch is more difficult, probably.
Yes, we are not used. We are typically more, I mean, the school are very connected to the words, but in any case, even more times the information enters from different pathways. So writing, taking notes, sketching, more your brain retains, of course, because there are different elaborations consequent. There is I think there is, yes, Serena that put a video that we will see later on. So thanks a lot. If you have also contribution ideas, please put them, that we will be able to incorporate as maybe we will make a final image with all these links that we can suggest to other people that will see the registration. So thanks a lot. Very well connected with the visual thinking, there is the storytelling, because you know that our brain operates in pictures, and when we hear a story, we imagine something. And this is the reason why, for instance, the TEDx presentation are typically using the stories, because stories are easy to remember. They make your presentation more personal, particularly if the story is your story, and then they create the emotional flow. I don't want to go into detail with this question of the flow, but the flow is a state of mind in which you feel very comfortable, also when you are playing video games, to make an example. But in the story, you enter and you feel kind of in. And this is what you have to create in order to pop up during your presentation, when, for instance, there are pitches competition in which after the third, the fourth, that the investors start to make a confusion. So if you need to pop up, use stories or images. And then the next is visual. Of course, visual communication is part of the visual thinking, because it transforms the visual thinking into visual elements. Do you know what is this? I guess most of you know. These animals?
Neurons. It's a neural network.
Exactly. It's the neuronal network. And this is how our brain is done. That seems a little strange, but then it's funny to see that most of the mind maps are created in this way, because we have connections, we have topics like here, the topics are connected to other topics. So when we do maps, mind maps, basically we replicate the way our brain is structured, and then this is the reason why mind maps facilitate structure in the flow of ideas, thoughts and opinions, and then they make a connection by linking different concepts, like basically what we do when we think. And this is one of the most interesting supporting tools, the mind maps. There are a lot of templates online. You can do your own mind map. It's very useful also when you have some difficulties, like for dyslexic people or for autistic people, because of course they really support the connection when they are kind of broken somehow. Another good example, we were again touching the individual dimension, then the team dimension. The shared boards are a very good way to elicit and structure visually team creativity and co-creation. This is an example of an activity that we did in the Miro board that is very effective. And you can see that there are many attributes also. Luis will touch those attributes later on. But basically, the way you organize words, basically in a co-creative exercise, can be multiple. You can use arrows, you can use different shapes, you can use different colors, you can put things together. And this is a very good example of structuring visually the result of a co-creation exercise. Flow charts that are kind of complex. This was, we wanted to bring you a real example. This is a explanation of the value chain of a project in which we are communication leader, that is about creating bioplastics from industrial feedstocks, industrial waste. And this was really complex because imagine that this is the summary of more than 100 pages. So we have this total image that is very easy to be used when you have to explain the different steps and the consequences of the different steps. And then also to avoid the miscommunication and errors when you are speaking to someone else. The presentation slides are very typical. And here I took a very bad example on what you shouldn't do. So to put too many information in your slide, but rather try to use less text, to maybe use also existing templates, to try to be consistent with the colors, with the images, to try to, again, create this flow and respect it, because when you are kind of relaxed and in a flow, you again retain much more the information. And I'm nearly done with these. Other visual elements you have to take into consideration are, for instance, the settings. So these are examples of bad settings, especially now when we are online. We really need to take care of what we have on our back. And also, and this is very typical from us as Italians, the body language and hand movements. Luis, do you want to touch this
yes,
dimension?
Before this, there is James that is coming up with another interesting point. James, go ahead.
Yes, just you mentioned earlier about the techniques for making things into images, and you can recall it easier. But I've often thought about trying this, and I've seen some TV programs I think that were doing it, but so for example, those people that can remember many names of people in the audience, and what the technique that they use is they'll take the name, what the person looks like, or some article of clothing they're wearing, and then they remember the name that way. But I'm always wondering, how can they process that so quickly? And it would seem to me to be more things to remember, to be able to bring it back again. So it always puzzled me, because they have to remember something about, the way the person's eyeglasses, for example, maybe, and then turn that into, the name of the person, so that when they look at that person again, they'll remember, okay, they have these, round eyeglasses, so, their name is Robert because it begins with the letter R or O, or something like that. Do you know what I mean? But the question I have is, how do they do it so quickly? You would think it would actually be more difficult to do it that way, because there's more things to consider than just remembering the person's name and what they look like.
Probably, I think that in any case, it depends on the people. And of course, those people already experimented several times these techniques. Mm-hmm. And they really have an image. Once I heard an interview about this guy that was able to remember, I don't remember how many sequence of numbers, so with no clues at all. And they were using images. So for instance, a cat is 6, a dog is 7. And so they were creating images in which the dog was following the cat and the cat was following a mouse and the mouse was jumping on the roof. So this type of things they use, this at least this interview that we heard. But again, there are people. I had a friend of mine when I was at university. She was reading, I'm not kidding, she was taking picture with her brain of our books, and she was reading she was reading with the eyes like that. So she didn't have to memorize. She was simply reading.
Mirko, you have
Your hand raised.
your hand up, please.
Yes. Well, I think I can answer that. I did some research in the past. To James regarding the question, I think no, the reason why memorizing more helps to recall it faster is that we have there is an unlimited capacity to remember things that we have in our long-term memory. For example, we are capable of learning 2 or 3 languages. The problem is that there is a bottleneck of the perception in learning. You cannot learn all day without clogging up. It's not that it doesn't fit in your head, but it's not processed. And that is the answer. If you want to remember a face, I cannot remember names, but I can very well remember faces. So the Romans, who had less writing material, had a method, and I can, sorry for taking a bit long to get to the point. They had a method called the Loci method. They would remember 10 things in a row by having a pass through an area they know. For example, if you want to remember that you have to go to the store, buy 4 things. 3 is relatively easy. If it's 4 or 5, you will be in the store and you will have entirely forgotten what it should be. So what you remember is that you go down the stair in your home, which you know very well, and you want to buy eggs, flour, water, and say the cleansing stuff for the dishes. Hard to remember if you don't do anything because you have it now, but it will be difficult if you in half an hour because it's gone from your memory. So what you do is you recall a story that you fall down the stairs, that you juggling with the eggs, they fall down, they splash into the water, they mix with the detergent, and it's a mess, and so on. And by remembering more, you are bringing this story because it's visual. That's the point about it. And here we are back in the seminar. Because it's visual, you will be in the store half an hour later and you will remember it.
Okay, that's excellent. Thank you, Mirko.
So we're going back to storytelling, basically.
Yes.
Mirko.
Yeah, I would definitely approve that. That's a way to remember things, and telling stories is always a compelling way to make these visuals in another's mind. So I guess that's visual thinking.
Exactly. And when you have to convince someone else, and particularly really when you want someone to remember you among a plethora of people that are doing similar things to you, a pitch in front of investors. This is a typical example. If you want to stand up, the storytelling could be a way, could be a real nice way, because you will stick. Now we will remember for years this story about this guy that is falling down the stairs, Mirko. Because, and we will remember you that are linked to this story. So this is a very good example of what we were.
If you also can add another element, another ingredient, that is the interaction with the audience. So if you're telling a story, you stop in a certain point and you pose a question and wait for the answer, and then you start to interact and tell them something, and then you keep going on your story. This is even better because, you know, they will remember you for sure on that point that you ask the question. So this is another point.
I would like to add very shortly something that is important. The more hilarious the story is, like uncommon, the easier the brain will remember. I give 2 examples and then you will remember for the rest of your life. I'm learning Spanish and I use this Loci method to remember certain words. One example, the Spanish word for belt is cinturón. So I remember it strangely with centurio, which is a Roman soldier. So at a certain spot, there's a huge Roman soldier standing, and I have it in my visual map. And when I see the centurion, I know that cinturón is a Spanish word for belt. That's how it works. The other thing is juntos means together. And what I have is two South American generals who are arm in arm. They are together because they are a junta. That is the word like people, working together. So South American generals is juntos means together. So now you learn two words of Spanish. Cinturón y juntos.
Gracias.
De nada.
Okay, Luis, so now
So now from the graphical design point of view, my background is graphic design. So we are talking now about the visual elements when you have to, communicate something. So the first one is the canvas, and basically the canvas means how you structure your communication and your presentation. If you want to put everything in one single place, if you want to divide by, different other areas. The next one is, shapes. Well, I put here triangle, circle, and square, but of course there are more. Hand shape are the best one. You can really create stars. You can just make circles as you like, or different type of shapes. Then the text, of course, the text is important because, visual thinking doesn't mean just visual. You put visual, but you add text. But of course, please try to summarize the text. So don't put hundreds of words for a single, shape or image, but just try to summarize as much as you can to be, let's say, clarified by the visual. Okay. The next one is lines. Lines is very important. These are connectors. So you can connect things. You can connect shapes. You can connect the text. And this is very important to structure your presentation. The next one is, Susanna has problems with moving to the next one. Icons. Well, icons, you can find a lot of them. I'll give you a tip. Just go on Google, put whatever you want to look and put icon and go on the images, and you will find a bunch of icons. And this will give you also some input. Oh, this is what I can use for, to try to simplify this concept. Okay. So this is very important. And then, of course, pictures. Pixabay is a free place where you can find fantastic images. This image that you see here in this presentation is taken from Pixabay. And or Pexels is another one where you can find also free videos. So just go there, write what you are looking for, and your visual thinking will start to move, because if you put whatever you like, I don't know, trust, and you see some images, then you say, these images, is good for trust because, this means this, and that. So this is very important. The next point are the visual attributes. So basically the first one are the colors. So please, when you do a presentation, don't put the red for yes and don't put the green for no, because a lot of people do this. Confirmation is not red. Red is not confirmation, remember. And then also how you want to combine the colors. You can have gradients. For example, if I'm doing a presentation about medical, for example, I will use bluish, greenish colors. Or if I want to talk about nature, I will add maybe to green and bluish also orange, yellow. And this is, so the combination of colors. But the colors can be also used to combine different ideas. For example, ideas of a certain type, I will use blue, other type I will use yellow, and so on. Next one are scale. So when you scale a shape, a text, or whatever, you give importance to that shape, okay? So if it's big, means it's the main, and if they are smaller, then are maybe branches of the first one, okay? So scale is very important also on the creation of visual thinking and visual presentation. Proximity is another important thing. You can group things, and I'm sure Mirko knows how to do that when he makes the structures, where to put things together and how to make people understand where are the different areas that he is presenting. And then last but not least, the flow. Flow is basically how you want to tell your story. So it's the storytelling, as we said before, if you want to interact, so, present, then put a question, pose a question, interact, have a question, an answer, and then go on. Or you want to make, a plenary session without interaction with anyone. Or if you want to put, the first image and then all the other pieces of the next images, or everything in one that will appear. So this is the flow of your presentation. So being a graphic designer, I think, the logo design is one of the things that really engage the visual thinking. So I remember on the old age, when I was a young graphic designer, I used to go to sleep. And then in the morning, like at 3 o'clock, I was coming up because I had to do these logos. I had a lot of concept that I had to visualize in a single graphical element. And I was waking up and said, oh, this is it. I have the idea. And then I was falling to sleep. I was waking up in the morning again, and I forgot everything. So in the new days, now that I'm older also, if I wake up at 3 o'clock with something in mind, I just stand up from the bed, I take a piece of paper, I put it down, even if it's, just a sketchy thing, but that I will remember in the morning. And going back to the project that we are doing, and that is about fishing gear, and this was a logo, and the project is called Glaukos. So this was, we are building bio-based fishing gear or textile for t-shirts, and this has to be biodegradable. So if you lose your fishing gear in the water, it will be biodegradable, so it will go out. And so this was the logo. So you see a leaf that is basically let's say the bio, the nature, that transforms in a net. But the net can also be the textile if you see it on the microscope. And so this is just a very fast case study about a logo that we have done. I don't want to lose more time about this. And then I pass to Selenia that will bring you another case study.
Yes, the other case study that we want to show you is about architecture, since I'm an architect. So how to apply visual thinking also in architecture and interior design. Here you can see this diagram, which is related to the Möbius house, a project designed by UN Studio. And this is an example on how to transform housing needs into a 24-hour cycle of sleeping, working, and living. And so this diagram guides also the spatial organization of the building itself. So this is also an example of how to visualize a complex idea on how two entities sharing a common space in a shared house, and how their trajectories during their home activities running during the days can also be materialized into a building construction. And this diagram so integrates the architectural program, the circulation, and the architectural structure itself.
Thank you, Selenia. So now let's go visual. So now we want you to participate to something. So we want to give you an assignment to see what will come out. This is an experiment, so you are you are part of the experiment. So we would like that you pick a concept of your product, your service, your company, whatever. I don't want to be strict on that, because we thought at the beginning to use a unique selling proposition, but it was too complex, especially because you are in a context that is very difficult. But we would like also really to tell you, take a concept from your work, and we would like, and now here we make the difficult part, we want you to enter in Miro, and you will find this canvas basically. Let me show you. Okay. So let me share my screen. There should be this one. You see it? Okay. So I guess I put already the link. So basically, the difficult part is that in this canvas that you see, you have this, let's say, geometrical figures, but they are not a rectangle or a circle. They are strange figures. You can see something from them. I mean, for example, for this one, I see a butterfly, maybe. So if I want to do something, you know, with a butterfly, I just put it here, some of them. I can, of course, rotate them. I can scale them if I want to make it smaller. I can make connectors also from here. So I can connect this one to this one, for example, okay? But I don't want to give you any hint. I just want to tell you, go here, think about something, can be even NGI points, I don't know, trust or whatever, or something about your project or your service, and try to visualize and represent an artifact that represent this point. So we will not ask you at the end when you finish this, and we will ask the participant what they see, and let's see if you were able to describe this visually. Okay. So we will give you, I would say 20 minutes maybe, because probably you have 5 minutes to think, you know, what you could be something in your, you know, daily life that you would like to show. And then we will give you 15 minutes to do it. Okay?
Ideally, you can, if we want then to connect with the next exercise, probably could be nice to start from the main, the keyword of your activity, of your project. So try to do this, otherwise you can use other things, but maybe this could be a good starting point. No, don't share, don't write, because then we will have to guess what you are talking about. So everybody can enter that place. Is in the chat, the link.
And there are 32, I think, 32 canvas.
You can put your name close to the canvas, so nobody else will touch it. So you select a canvas and you put your name, and then start
I will put the timer.
writing.
So we have 20. Is this 20? Yes.
Any question?
Okay. Here we are. So I'm sharing. Unfortunately, I didn't see a lot of participation, I have to say. Yeah, you were too scared. I don't know why. There is no a jury, yeah. But I saw Mirko. Mirko, you're my hero. I saw Mirko that did a fantastic artifact, I have to say, yeah. That I think is this one. Mirko, so don't say what is it. Let's ask to the other participants. So what do you see in this drawing? What do you think he wanted to convey as message? Anyone?
Look after,
Okay, go ahead.
look after the environment.
I think on the left side, it is the positive world of a network or something like working together. On the right side, it's the bad world where it is not working like it should. Something like best and worst examples of collaboration. Something that's my association with it.
Okay. Some other idea?
So if I can go next.
Go ahead.
I don't know why I see seasons. I see a season like spring, summer, blossoming. And then I see another season, which is not necessarily a season, more like but something happened to that forest, and something's changed. The tree evolved. Some tree fell, some more got organized, adapted to the new weather, to the new conditions. But still, I see hope because both trees have the same foundation, the same start. And that would be it.
Any other idea?
I can share a few thoughts if it's okay.
Yeah.
Hello. Well, like there's two versions of it to actually elaborate a bit more about the tree. So yeah, it's a blossoming tree, and the right side, the tree has been destroyed some sort. I don't know, taken in consideration global warming, maybe it relates to that or something like this, excessive emissions, blah, blah, blah. Or it's bouquet of flowers that's very nice, blossoming, and some sort of a dead flowers on the other side. My versions of it.
Okay. So the answer is Mirko. What was? I mean, there was some of them that get some points. The first one.
Yeah, they got the point basically because I tried to present trees that have the same foundation, and I got that from your data structure in the presentation, as you mentioned, data as a tree. So I wanted to present a project that is examining the data of two companies that are growing as a tree, as a company has its foundation, its start, and it needs to blossom. So on the left, we have a company that has a blossom that has fruits. These are these, I would say, round ones. And on the other sides, on the right side, we just see the branches that are not developed properly. So both sides have branches, but on the right, there's something wrong. And we as a company are trying to pinpoint and find companies that are doing good, that are growing properly in also as other mentioned in a sustainable way. And we want to water them down with rain, which is investment. And in that sense, that is something
that's cool.
The company are providing security for investors as they can back down and not water ones that are not growing and doing proper things. So that was the idea.
Mirko, you are definitely a visual thinker. I mean, I think this was great. I mean, you thought, and I mean, the difficulty, of course, of this exercise is that you can't draw. You just have to use what is there. So you have to stretch your brain as much as possible and try to, come up, combining all these elements to come up with some, some stories or something. And I think this was great. I mean, this you're doing. Then there was another one. I don't know if it was one of us or this one here. Who did this?
It's me. My name is Anton Zakrov.
Okay. So what do you guys see? Don't say, yeah? Don't say anything. We have to wait for the participants. So what do you see here? Anyone?
But for sure, we see a boat. And we see someone that is fishing something. And
or I can see a satellite maybe.
But also, yes, there is a kind of smart fishing systems using maybe a satellite that can provides information for sustainable fishing. Any other interpretation?
So this is interesting, if you allow me to share something. I teach a course called Applied Innovation Engineering. for engineering students here in Denmark. And one of the 3 theories that I present to them, it's related to constructivism, how we do things and take decisions based on certain events and past experiences and so on that are actually influencing a lot the choice of projects and whatever we're doing right now. And what I see in the picture, sure, there is the ship, but I also see a very particular type of bed for kids, newly born kids, which is actually used to be very popular in Albania, where I come from. And I see it as if this bed, it's becoming more digital or connected with some IoT device so that you can monitor the baby when they're sleeping, and maybe not just monitor like as a camera, but also check temperature and humidity level and other sort of metrics that it's possible over there. And maybe also this bed, it's waterproof in some sort of way. And I link that to my past because I've done a project with the leakage detection systems and valves for a manufacturing company here. And kids with asthma were 80% of the cases coming from water leakage at homes and damp in their beds and their rooms. So this is how I see it right now.
Yeah, good contribution to two totally different things. Any other idea?
I can think of different type of approach, because I would say that that ship is in front of me is bigger, so it's closer to me right now, and I would consider that as a source of the data and processing the data from the sea and transferring that data to the data center that extracts and gather and present a lot of information from that. So I would think that as you mentioned, the proximity, that the ship is where the information is going, and then it's sending the data through some kind of connection, what is the case, and then processing in some hidden parts, getting multiple results. So that's how I see it. I don't know.
So now the word to the artist.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much. Susanna, Louise, and Mirka, you're spot on. This is a vessel digitalization that was a satellite that transmit the data, and the data arrives ashore that then utilized for decision making. So it's a vessel digitalization, not specifically for the fisheries, but the whole merchant fleet, in fact.
Great.
Well done.
In between the two, in between the first and the third, but in any case,
but
was
you were
nice.
pretty good. You were pretty good to explain it in, with these pieces. Imagine if you present this to an audience. Okay, this is a drawing. What do you see here? This is what we do. Okay, this can be interesting. This is new. It's something that people don't see, because so this is just to show you, the way how you can be so visual thinker, and how you can use your visual thinking to create something different, original.
By the way, we already pop up with also some interesting ideas. I mean, this question of monitoring the babies, the question of having a kind of not citizen science, but rather something like diffuse science and data collection and management. So, I mean, it is also a good way to find new ideas without planning. And so, but this is mine. No, let's leave it mine.
This was mine. And there is somebody else in that.
You see this one? Yes, this one.
Selenia, this is you or somebody else?
No, it's me, Peter.
Okay, Peter. All right. So what do you see here in Peter drawing?
This is much complex.
Yeah. This is kind of. Well, really at the point, I guess, because there is not a lot of things around.
It seems an interface of something. And what is interesting is the fact that all the elements are different. So the concept of diversity should be embedded somehow. And then there are the three elements on the right that are not part, but kind of connected with
But there is
this.
a central part that probably is the most important, maybe, in the other four that go around. So I guess, let's say the central part, probably this one is, maybe it's the most important, but then they are all connected.
Yeah, the central part provides information. Any other idea? Anton, Mirko, Serena?
I would say based on what Selenia mentioned about the architectural view before, I will see that I probably influenced. I'll see that as a concept of life when you have four dimensions, and you need to include the three new types, the new three dimensions into your life, and something like that. Not life, maybe project. Something like that. I don't have any other clues, sorry.
Serena?
So I'm actually thinking.
We are all thinking.
Exactly. So there is some sort of modularity between these these icons. They provide something. They exchange something with one another. I don't know why I read love, L-O-V, with the digit on the corner. Maybe because I just recently got engaged. So I see hearts everywhere and connection. So, but I also see something related to art. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yes, art, creativity, but also something, yep. So the artist, tell us the mystery.
The mystery is indeed, it's very complex. What I'm trying to show here is the value creation which you get when you give consent, in this case to DNA data, but it could be to any consented data. And you do that by working together. So the center is indeed, like you see, it's a connection because it synthesizes 4 dimensions basically. So one dimension is that of the consent holder. That's the person, us as a citizens, for instance, who have to give consent to say, yes, you are allowed to use my data for this purpose. The other one is what I see, the knowledge contributor. It could be a researcher, but also anybody who wants to contribute or work with the data and wants to contribute knowledge to it, basically. And then the bottom part, the third one, is the data, which is separated from the technology, because the technology processes the data. But you need to combine all of these 4 dimensions and also people to create value with it. And that's on the right part. What comes out of it is the value creation when you combine these 4 elements in a synthetic way. And indeed, you get all kinds of different options, because you can also combine them in a lot of different ways, because the whole model in the future, I believe, will be decentral and will indeed work like in the other pictures, like a network. It will develop also like a network. And that is what I need to explain, how to orchestrate the environment to make that possible.
It is pretty complex to explain with a visual, I have to say.
Yeah, but we got, I mean, we got to the key points, also the central element, the 4 different, let's say, contributors to the full picture. The love question, what is?
Well, that's nice because it's a coincidence, but basically what you see is that the products that come out of it, which we can value as people and as society, are a lot of different biodiverse solutions, basically, because you keep on combining and recombining them, which create value to the society.
So finally, there is the love somehow.
Yes.
The love dimension.
Okay. I guess we have everything, right? No, this one. Wow.
Who's the owner of this,
Michael.
Michael?
Michael.
Yes,
Hmm.
apologies for the drawing.
No, it's fine. Everything is fine. So, I see a person here, I guess, that is on a tower somehow. And this is, I see it as a elastic carpet that it jumps and it goes in the house. It jumps, it goes up in a rocket. This is what I see. The first impression. I see stars here and a moon. This is what I see.
In any case, it has some dimension of fun and leisure, but maybe it's just because we imagine this, or this is simply a database in which the data are stored and then they go back to something else.
It
Any
has to do
other?
with the
Yeah.
user anyway. This is
Yes,
the
this
user.
is the user.
This is the user.
We agree that this is the user.
This is a house, I think.
Yes.
And
And
this can be a satellite or can be something
an extra, an alien.
like a rocket, actually.
Okay, any other idea?
I got reminded of when we were in second, third grade and learning English, and we would say, "This is a pen, and the pen is on the table." I don't know why I see a system. So the house is getting electricity or some energy sources, and a solar panel, maybe a tower, maybe a wind turbine from the tower on the side.
Any other dimension?
Yeah.
Anybody would like to contribute?
Go, Mirko.
For example, I would see that as a person joining some kind of startup hub or something like that for the first time that can propel that person into the space in a rocket ship through their own entrepreneurship journey, or they can find their place there as they will stay in that I would say innovation world. So, and find their home there. So that's the association that I had as some kind of innovation hub or some center.
Michael, give us the answer.
I joined 6 years ago, something like that. Yeah, it's great.
Michael.
Yes, very close. Well done. The drawing wasn't up to quality, but again, it's the idea that if you think of NGI Atlantic, it's building this, if you like, a trampoline or a platform that you can use either to shoot for the stars or get your ideas on further, or as you say, is a safe place where you can, even if you don't get into the rocket ship, you have a safe house that you have somewhere then that you can go to. And it's the idea that the experimenters on the left hand side, but they have to do the jump, but we make the platform to put them into a nice place, hopefully.
That's nice.
I really think that it's like picture great, because it was my first impression.
Yeah. It is. It's great. Bravo, Michael.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that all
Yes.
the paintings had 1, 2, 3 elements that were conveying the core message. And of course, we are not here to create artists, but rather to convey messages. I mean, the entire package was about this. And therefore, I think we succeed in, we all succeed in our objective of today of reflecting a little bit more on how we can think and structure our ideas or our thoughts in a visual way, and how this can help us in working alone, in working in teams, and then in communicating to third parties our concept. I think we have to close now because it's 6 o'clock. So I hope you learned something, or at least you have something to think about in the close future.
This was amazing. I think that all the presentations I will remember, and that is really not strange. But you guys are right. It's definitely visual. I thought that I'm good in numbers. I'm good in numbers.
Well, this was the goal of the webinar. I mean, we could stay here more, but you know, it's 6 o'clock. I think we have to stop here, and we are happy that you appreciate the webinar, and so I would stop here for now, and of course you will find this video, the presentation and everything in the Tetra